A homelessness crisis like no other in Los Angeles. More and more tents are popping up on the streets, with a new report revealing that the homeless population...
On a 50-block stretch of downtown Los Angeles, this year's official count found 4,892 people living without a roof, up nearly 1,000 from the year before. That's 4,892 separate nights with nowhere locked, nowhere warm, nowhere safe. You'd guess the biggest danger down there is the cold or the hunger. But researchers who study this population say the thing that actually shortens a life fastest out here isn't the weather, it's exhaustion. Because the one thing you're never fully allowed to do is sleep. Here's the question worth sitting with for the next 18 minutes. With almost 5,000 people packed into 50 blocks and nowhere near enough beds or staff to go around,
anybody with eyeballs in the state of California or Los Angeles knows that there has not been a reduction in one homeless person.
What does it actually take to make it through a single night out there, let alone years of them stacked end to end? Start with sleep, because it's the first thing you lose, and it's the one nobody driving past at a red light ever thinks about. You don't lie down and drift off the way you did in a bedroom. You lie down with your shoes still on, your bag pulled under your head like a pillow, and one ear working the whole time. Outreach workers who spend their nights on Skid Row describe the same pattern over and over. People who nap in 15 or 20-minute stretches, jolting awake at every footstep because a bag left unwatched for even a few minutes can be gone by the time your eyes open again. You learn the sound of someone walking past versus someone walking toward you. You learn it the way other people learn a language, out of necessity, not choice. And it isn't only theft you're listening for. At least 187 cities across the country have passed laws against camping or sleeping in public spaces, according to legal researchers who track this. That means the sound that jolts you awake at 3 in the morning is just as likely to be an officer telling you to move along, tent and all, as it is a stranger's hand near your bag. Pack up, walk 2 blocks, find a new patch of sidewalk, try again. Some nights that happens twice. The block itself never really goes quiet either. There's traffic on the overpass a block over, someone's radio through a tent wall, the particular clang of a shopping cart's wheel catching on a seam in the concrete at 2 in the morning. You get good at sleeping through almost all of it, except your own name being called. You never get used to the part where everything you own has to move with you, every single time, still warm from where you were just lying on it. Losing sleep, though, turns out to be the manageable part. Staying clean is where the arithmetic stops working in your favor. A body needs water, soap, and somewhere private to use them, and on a block this crowded, all 3 are rationed like ammunition. Public restrooms get locked at night. Shower trailers run limited hours, sometimes only a handful of slots per morning, so people line up before sunrise for a chance at 5 minutes of hot water. Miss the window and you're wearing the same clothes through heat, through rain, through however many days it takes until the next opening rolls around. Skin breaks down under fabric that never fully dries. Feet especially. Days on end in the same damp socks does something to skin that a 5-minute shower a week doesn't come close to undoing. And small cuts turn into infections nobody catches early because nobody's checking. The smell that builds up becomes its own kind of wall, a barrier between you and anyone who might otherwise stop and actually help. And it works both ways. You start avoiding people too, because you know what you smell like, and shame does a version of the same job that the wall does. Once the body starts breaking down like that, hunger finishes the job. Meal lines form outside missions and churches at set hours, and they move fast, because everyone standing in that line knows exactly how many plates are coming and exactly how many people are behind them. Miss the window here too, and dinner becomes whatever a restaurant kicked into the dumpster at closing. Regulars learn which alleys, which nights, which staff quietly leave the good stuff sitting on top instead of burying it under coffee grounds. They learn the smell of a dumpster gone bad from 30 feet away, the way a chef learns the smell of a sauce about to turn. None of this is a lifestyle choice, whatever the comment sections like to say. It's arithmetic. Calories in, calories burned standing in lines for hours, walking blocks between one service and the next, carrying everything you own on your back because there's no locker, no drawer, no closet anywhere that's yours. Every single thing you own has weight, and you feel every ounce of it by the third mile of the day. None of the services meant to catch people here were ever built for a number this size. Case managers who are supposed to help someone find permanent housing are carrying caseloads far past what any single person can actually manage, according to workers in the field, which means the wait for an actual apartment can stretch past a year, even for someone doing everything asked of them. Interim shelters fill by early evening. Outreach teams cover blocks on foot because there aren't enough vehicles or staff to cover the ground any faster. The system isn't absent. It's just outnumbered, night after night, by a population that keeps arriving faster than any agency can process it. So you're exhausted, you're unwashed, and you're underfed. And that combination is already dangerous before the weather even turns on you. A cold snap that a housed person experiences as an inconvenience, an extra blanket, a bumped-up thermostat, is something else entirely when you're sleeping on concrete with wet clothes on your back. Public health researchers who track homeless mortality say exposure kills people without shelter at a rate far beyond what it does to the rest of the population, because a body already run down from bad sleep and worse food has almost nothing left to fight hypothermia or pneumonia with. There's no landlord to call at midnight, no thermostat to bump. There's just the concrete, cold enough to pull heat straight out of a body through 3 layers of clothing. Whatever cardboard you manage to scavenge for insulation, and the hours until sunrise stretching out in a way they never do when you're warm. Rain is worse than cold alone, because wet fabric stops insulating at all, and a wet night can undo whatever ground you gained on a dry one. Here's where it stops being about the environment and starts being about other people, and this is where the danger sharpens. A long-running study following older adults experiencing homelessness found that almost 12% had been physically or sexually assaulted in just the prior 6 months. The National Coalition for the Homeless has documented well over 1,500 acts of violence against unhoused people across the country over the past 2 decades, committed for no reason other than the fact that the victim had nowhere else to be. And researchers with that organisation count at least 588 of those victims killed since tracking began. The same study found something almost unbearable buried inside its own numbers. When someone in that research finally got housed, even briefly, their risk of being attacked dropped by half. Not because they'd changed as a person, because a locked door had entered the picture. A door does something that vigilance alone can never quite manage, however careful a person is, however little sleep they're willing to sacrifice, standing guard over their own body. Some of that violence comes from strangers passing through who've decided, for no reason connected to the person they're hurting, that someone with nowhere to run is an easy target. Some of it comes from inside the community itself, from disputes over territory or belongings that would be a shouting match anywhere else and become something worse out here, where nobody's coming to break it up. Either way, the body absorbing it is the same tired, underfed, sleep-starved body that's already been losing ground on every other front for weeks. Every one of those threats also does something quieter, something you can't photograph. Isolation sets in on top of the exhaustion, the hunger, and the fear, and it compounds fast. Friends from a life before the streets stop calling back. Or you stop answering because explaining where you're sleeping tonight gets exhausting in a different way than the sleeping itself. Mental health researchers who work in this population describe a kind of narrowing. The world shrinks down to the next meal, the next safe corner, the next hour you can stay awake to protect what little you have. There's no room left over for anything that isn't survival. Birthdays pass unmarked. Phone numbers get lost with the phones. That narrowing doesn't show up in a headline count. It shows up later, in outcomes nobody's watching for until it's too late to reverse. In a person who used to have a whole life of small, ordinary things and now has only the block, the bag, and the next hour. And that's the part that outlasts every single night you manage to survive. All of it together, the sleepless nights, the rationed showers, the dumpster dinners, the exposure, the assaults, the narrowing mind, compounds into something researchers can actually measure across tens of thousands of recorded deaths. The average age at which someone experiencing homelessness dies is right around 51 years old. The average American makes it to about 78. That gap is roughly 27 years, an entire second act of a life gone before it should be. Cardiovascular disease gets you faster out here, so does an infection that would have been a 5-minute clinic visit anywhere else, if there'd been anywhere to walk into and a card in a wallet to hand over. Researchers keep finding the same causes stacking on top of one another: exposure, untreated illness, violence, exhaustion. None of them the whole story by itself, all of them together, shaving decades off a life that started out no different from anyone watching this right now. 51. Say it out loud. It means a person born the same year as your own parents could already be gone. Not from anything exotic, just from every single one of the ordinary hardships on this list, arriving at once and never letting up. So can a person actually make it night after night on a block with almost 5,000 people and nowhere near enough help to go around? Some do, for years, through stubbornness and a network of people looking out for each other the way family used to. Plenty of bodies wear out faster than any count is tracking, and the 5,000 aren't standing still. That number grew by nearly 1,000 in a single year, which means somewhere on that block tonight, someone is losing the exact fight you just watched, while the rest of the city sleeps with the door locked. What would actually have to change for a number like that to start shrinking instead of climbing every single year?